course, welcome. And if you're here for the North Bend School Board monthly meeting, you're in the right place. If you're not, ask Michelle where you're supposed to be. Anyway, we have 4 new members, so we're gonna do prior reading roll call.
Should we do the?
No,
Or is that next?
I'm following the list.
Okay.
Stop it.
I'm bad, I'll shut.
You did this in just a minute. Okay, so, we shall do that, so I guess we need all the people to stand, the new members. And we're gonna do a I, which is put your name out there. I. Megan Croston, yeah, oh, yeah. Raise a hand. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof and the policies. Don't they need to say it?
Yeah, let them say it, you'll go to.
We're gonna have them say it themselves.
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Have it there.
All together.
Yeah, okay, and just read it all together. Okay, cool.
Megan, you lead it.
I, Megan Grossman Cahill, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof and the policies of the North Bend School District. During my term, I will faithfully and impartially discharge the responsibilities of the office of school board member to the best of my ability, and will bear in mind always the welfare of the children entrusted to the school district.
All right, welcome. Okay, so, call to order, flag pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. That was really fun.
Never seen that.
I'm sure. We almost lost me there. Okay, and a roll call, so let's just start with Megan.
Yeah.
Oh, Deanna. Where's Megan?
Megan.
Megan, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, Deanna,
Megan from Centerville.
Hey, place on.
Carol Yardley, Michelle Roberts, and
Julie Hill.
all right. So I think with that, we have now, we need to have approval of the agenda. Do I have anyone?
I'm going to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second that.
Okay,
I have a question. Is this where we would add additions to the agenda?
It's good.
well, when I
Like
had
to
that,
amend
it didn't really happen.
Like to amend it?
Is it some, yeah, we've not done that.
Well, usually there's a section that says additions to the agenda, so that's why I'm asking. I'm not sure where to add. To this agenda for tonight?
Well, I suppose that's going to be up to the board chair. And where it would fit, and that would be, normally what we do on that is we have a pre-meeting. And that's where the agenda is broke down. It's not impossible, nothing is impossible, so I'm gonna pass the buck on that to the new board chair. Okay, because that's just how I am. Now, we're going to have the election of officers for 2025 through 26. For board chair, yes,
Did
sir.
we actually have a vote on the approval?
The approval, did we not?
Oh,
No, we did not.
Okay, do we have approval vote for the agenda? We can't, because we don't know.
What I was wondering, Anna, I don't know what you want to add, but I was wondering is if it could be something that is just in the board.
Comments?
Comments or communication, we can do that. I don't know, that might be best for tonight.
Yeah, that probably makes the most sense since we're already
One of the things that just for information's sake, typically. The reason why we discourage adding things to the agenda at the last minute is because then the public doesn't have the opportunity to see. What's on the agenda in an open meeting. That's one of the reasons why we have to post it 24 hours in advance. So that the public can choose whether or not they want to come or not want to come based on the items that are on the agenda. So to add things to the agenda can happen, you certainly can't legally from a board standpoint. However, we typically discourage it unless there's some kind of necessary action item or something specific like that would need to be acted upon.
Yeah, I understand, it's just, with us being new, there's stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
believe me, we know new. All right, then we're gonna go on, since the board has all in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Aye. All
And so
ayes.
remind me, there was a motion by Nathan, who was the second? Wait, Michelle.
All right, so let's move on to the election of the board officers for 2025-26. First one is, of course, board chair. And this is where nominations are just shout them out. I have one, and that would be Nathan for board chair. And anyone else have a nomination? Anyone, yeah, else have a nomination? Do we have a, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. And so we have a vote on that, which is,
Derek, can you take a roll call vote on this one?
yes, I can, sir. Okay,
Appreciate it, thank you.
roll call. Alrighty, so we are going to start. Check out all the names, right? See, you throw me new names and. We will start with Julie.
Aye.
Anna. Megan.
Aye.
Deanne.
Nick or Megan?
Megan.
Megan. Sorry. Get a vote. Okay, we had Megan and we had Deanne. Okay. Michelle, aye. Carol, yeah. Nathan, you got anything to say about yourself?
I said you guys are fools.
And then the next thing, is this something that you are able and willing to do?
Yes, I can. Willing to take on that responsibility.
Okay, so that would make Nathan our new board chair.
Next item on the agenda is to elect the vice chair. Any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Anna Hewitt.
Anna, okay, Anna Hewitt. I would like to nominate Michelle Roberts.
Okay.
Any other? Okay, and I think the way we would do that is just, we'll do it by raised hand. In favor of Anna. Raise your hand. 3, 4, and in favor of Michelle. 3, okay, well, Anna's it.
And that's it. And then you have your second vice chair.
Okay, any nominations for the second vice chair?
I would nominate Michelle.
Any others? Okay. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye. Okay, got that, Michelle? All right, the official handing over.
Nice.
I'm not
No,
sure.
no, just sit.
Your name tag runs in.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's true.
The hot seat.
Okay, the next item is public participation. Do we have anyone here that's about doing public participation and comments? Okay, it doesn't appear that we have anybody, so we'll move on to item number 6, which is communications. First is the board reports and communications. We have a board report.
If you go down the list, it'll show that I don't think there's anybody else but me tonight.
Okay, so the board, there are no board reports other than the
Oh,
superintendent.
the board report, right?
Yeah, other than the superintendent's report, and he's here. Give us a quick report.
All right, you have My written report, for the new members, I typically have a written report, and then what I usually do, I may run over that just a little bit, but I don't try to read it word for word. And oftentimes what I'll do is just add something that may, have come to pass, or that there may be new information. That I want to share with you that that I didn't have when I wrote the report. The report's typically written about a week in advance of the meeting. And so, we went to graduation, about 140 kids go, I love graduation. Culmination of 13 years of hard work on the kids and a lot of investment by parents and staff members and the community. Just, I got to go do the wave off again out at North Bay. It was fun to see the North Bay kids had out there, Joyce, are you there? That's a lot of fun. They have quite a cool tradition where you go out to North Bay and wave the kids off, that either the parents are getting out or they go off in the buses. The Peru trip, we had a big group of kids go to Peru with Raphael, the gang. And so, we had one mishap. One of the boys started in PDX with a passport. By the time they got to Miami, no passport. So, Eva Varga, flew back to Oregon with that student. And she didn't get to do the rest of the trip. She just came back with the student. She volunteered to do that. We talked with her about it whenever she came back, had a chance to speak with her, and she just said, I just volunteered. As you know, because she's an international traveler, has tons of international traveling experience. So she went ahead and brought the student back. 6 of our staff, and well, actually officially 7 of our staff went to Seaside, the annual conference that we have in Seaside each year. And had a chance to go do that. It was a good conference. I think all 6 of us, 7 of us. Did you like it? Ed, did you like being there?
It was fun. Well, I wouldn't say fun. It was interesting.
Okay.
The group was fun.
The group was fun. And so we went to that conference about the week after school was out. So it's always good to refresh a little bit, kind of get our brain geared towards next year. What I do want to bring to the table, a couple of things. One, is I don't know, I think I mentioned it, Chris had told me that the high school had met the requirements to be accredited. We've got an official notice, we're gonna be getting a certificate and things, so just so you know, our high school's gone through the accreditation process, they'll do that again in about 5 more years, about every 5 years. On kind of on the negative side, you may be hearing some things from the federal government about money that is not being allocated starting July 1. And so I received an email from the Coalition of Oregon School Administrators, which is an administrator organization in the state of Oregon. Okay, so all of us that are licensed admin in the state can belong to that group. And they do a lot of advocacy. Their national group, the AASA, shot out some information and for allocation of, I'm going to read you just a sentence. Yesterday afternoon, less than 24 hours before all federal education funds are expected to be available. They are available starting July 1 every year for the new year. The U.S. Department of Education notified states it was not going to allocate fiscal year 25 funds for Title 1C, Title 2A, Title 3A, Title 4A, and Title 4B until further review. And so we're going to have more conversation about that with our COSA partners tomorrow. I'll be a part of a Zoom across the state. And Title 1C is funds for migrant students. Title 2A is teacher training, retention, and topics associated with that. And Title 3A is ELL, or English language learner students. Title 4A is student support and academic enrichment. And Title 4B has to do with child and family services. So Tim and I will, we have talked already, don't think the loss of funding in those titles is going to have a major impact on our district. We know that they'll have a significant impact on a lot of districts. but we don't think we're gonna see a huge impact. But we're gonna take a look and get a sense for what kind of impact it actually will have on us. And so, for example, in Title III, lack of Title III, that will impact us to one level or another. But for example, Eva Varga, her funding is 100%, Tim, I'm not correct with asking this question, her funding is 100% general fund. So, so her position will not have to be cut, will continue to serve students. And so that's just an example, that might be the best example. I do not believe that we have a migrant student population. So the Title I seat should not impact us very much. And then, but we'll see some impact in 2A and I'm not sure specifically about 4A and 4B. So just a heads up on that. We'll also keep you updated as things change in the state of Oregon, as we begin to implement some of the new laws that were passed with the legislative session just ended. So as those things have an impact, we'll continue to let you know. So I'm going.
On to action item number 7, which is consent calendar. We have a lot on the consent calendar, but it is a consent calendar. Maybe you could briefly touch upon for those followed us what essentially this is.
So every July, the school district across the state do their annual business. And in that annual business, they take a lot of action that basically outlines, you know, everything from who our insurance person is to who's going to handle our who our representative from the district is, and so on and so forth. Tim, if you want to add anything, feel free. But essentially, this is just the housekeeping business that the board does every July. This is the only month you will see that unless we don't have a July board meeting. In fact, in 24, we didn't have a July board. We were required to in July last year because we weren't seating any board members. And so the board chose to just take July off, and so we did this housekeeping in August. But the first board meeting of our fiscal year, we always do this housekeeping work. Other things that will be on our consent agenda might also be staffing changes. So you see some names here on the list that include our new high school principal hire and so on and so forth. So consent agenda. Ted, you want to add anything beyond what I just said about?
Not particularly, I mean, just it allows us to legally conduct business as a school district. So you see the names of designated people we work with, attorneys of record, auditors, things like that. The banks we do business with, and who is authorized to sign checks and apply for grants. And then it would be the clerk in that, and I would be the deputy.
Do you have a motion?
I'm going to accept the consent agenda. I'll second that.
Any comments, questions, discussion?
What's the significance of us knowing the confidential employees, like it identifies them here, is there a reason that there's significance to just those being like that?
We can't go wrong.
Well, I'm sure if I should look at some American.
Yeah, I'll sketch back for you.
The confidential employees have a particular status. They're classified employees. They're not certified, but you are essentially agreeing to the notion that our group of confidential employees have the right to access confidential information as part of their duty.
Well, with that in mind, all in favor, say aye. Any nays? Okay, that's a 7-0. On to item number 8, interdistrict transfers. Maybe we have a brief discussion of information on what that is and how that affects us.
So interdistrict transfers get students, and you can see from your packet, you can see there is a we have an action item, especially we give you a cover sheet. that'll have an explanation. And you can see on your cover sheet that interdistrict transfers commonly referred to it like these are student transfers in school districts. And so, our district limits the number of students that we have that we're taking in particular grade levels. And that's based on the number of students that we have that already live in our district and how many that we expect that we can accept. Because, for example, and what you don't see here, you're not seeing any elementary, but if we take elementary, for example, if we have 100 first graders this coming up year, we know that we can divide those into 4 classes, and that's 25 students per class. If we accept 15 first graders, then it's not enough to hire a new teacher, but it really overloads our current teachers, right? You see what I'm getting at? So basically, we put a cap on each grade level so that we don't put ourselves in that position to where we're overloading our current staff, but not enough to hire the next person. And so what we've done is typically come to you in August with interdistrict transfers. This year, we decided to come July with our secondary levels, since those are typically easier. Really honestly, in the high school, even though we're saying 10, if we get a whole bunch of sophomores that want to come in, and we feel like we can handle it, we'll come back to you to raise the number at a later date. But this is what we've looked at right now. Our current 8th grade, well, upcoming 8th grade class is one that's pretty tight, and which is why you see that as being 2. Our 6th grade, we feel like we can take up 12. Everybody else kind of the standard for all the other grades being 10.
I guess I'm just curious, I know the grade school, that makes complete sense. But I feel like with our low numbers, I don't know why we even have to have a number. Like, why can't we just have it open and just go by what we think, if we can bring them in
Part of that,
at the high school level and middle school level?
the high school level, we're a little less concerned. The middle school level, like with the 8th grade, the number of kids they have, we essentially have 3 teachers per subject matter. And so if you have, 3 science teachers, you have a 7th and an 8th and a 6th grade science teacher that divide the kids out through the day. So you can get to a place where if you have too many kids, you can put yourself in a spot where you're really loading up your class and making it really difficult for your teacher to teach that. So at the middle school level, it's a little bit more of an item for us to pay attention to because of the fact that we have 3 secondary teachers per grade level. And if you take too many kids beyond what you have, then you're gonna have to hire someone to do that. Or and then you get into that weird mixing, where you try to hire that person that's going to have, you only need 1 or 2 sections of extra, let's say 8th grade science, and here you are, you have to hire an entire person to get. So I think that's really the key. The high school last year was 20, but pretty much the high school will take just about anyone.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so I just wonder if, like, this isn't a set in stone, seems like it's kind of like a recommended, but not.
I think we by law are.
So we don't have to stay with
We're
this.
supposed to make the cap, so that, but then, again, if we got 15 sophomores that wanted to come in, we come back to you in August and say, let's raise that to.
So it's for the guideline
Yeah,
versus it's now.
It just seems like. You wouldn't have to come back to us in August if it was a little bit more flexible, I guess, that's my main thing.
well, and that's, and if you wanted to say, push it to 20, which is what we had last year for the high school, and you could offer that,
I don't know, that's why I'm asking you.
Well,
yeah.
If it's feasible, we should say a higher number, so then you don't have to come back to us if they have, you know what I mean? Right, just
Well, and
based-
I will tell you, last year we put it at 20 and we didn't get anywhere near
Okay.
close to what we
Okay.
even had said.
Yeah.
I was gonna look up, but I mean,
Okay,
if we ever get close to that, we would not just say no, we would look at the numbers and say, look.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get close to
Okay.
20 in any grade.
it just seems like bookkeeping wise, easier to just not have like a lower number and then have to go back, but.
Yeah, and that's very doable. I mean, if a person wants to make a motion, change the numbers, so that they were higher for the high school. You can add that, and that motion would be the motion, this
Sure.
is all recommendation.
Can I just add
Yeah.
too that there is contractual language with the certified group about recommended class size caps? And with some of the adjustments that have been made to staffing levels, like going from 6 ELA teachers down to 4. Or 5 math teachers down to 4. We were trying to see if we could get all the kids, all the scheduled classes too, without going over those class size caps prior to accepting the IDTs. Because it would be disruptive for the students to think they were starting in a new school and then to have something interfere with that if the class size was too high. So something to consider. We may have to meet with our union group and talk about how to support teachers or hire people if we could. If we exceed the class size
Or we
recommendations.
could keep it this way, I would, that's why I was just asking, like, what would be best?
So it's similar to the middle school information that Vince was giving. We were trying to see how the master schedule plays out when the kids get all the required classes versus the electives to make sure we don't go over those limits.
And who sets the numbers? Who's in charge of setting those caps?
We set those as cabinet team.
Okay,
Are you talking about the class size caps?
yeah, I was just wondering who,
Or these caps, the class sizes or?
sorry,
The recommendation on
yes,
here. is
that's
set by
something you
the
guys do as a
cabinet.
cap,
The
okay.
contract talks about class size caps,
Uh-huh,
so,
and then you guys decide,
and then we work within all of that information to bring this recommendation.
Okay. gotcha.
Do we have a motion to approve the district's recommendations on inter-district transfers?
I'll motion to approve the recommendation for inter-district transfers grade 6, 7, 8, for the 10th, 11th, 12th is posted.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the district recommendations for inter-district transfers for 6th grade through 12th grade. All in favor, any discussion, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Carries 7-0. Okay. Board comments.
Yeah.
You're on. You're on.
I wanted to add something about a potential July work session, because I think it would be beneficial, we have 4 new people. As new board members, I think it would benefit the district if we can be educated on some sort of process for the superintendent review, because none of us have done that before. And I was doing some research on OSBA, they're willing to train us for free, it's an hour. She's available on July 10th to July 17th, it's from 6 to 7. And she could do a training to show us what the potentials are and how to do it, how we as a group would run this. And that's free. If we decided to go with the way that they do it, they charge us an hourly fee, but we can decide that after the training. So I know that usually work sessions are decided elsewhere, but since we don't have that opportunity and time wise, it takes a while to get all that done. If we wait to do it till after we have our August 4th training, we're way far behind. So I just wanted to think proactively about looking at adding that July 1st session.
So what, those are 2 specific days, right?
That's what OSBA is available for,
And what time?
6 to 7 PM on July 10th and 17th.
And this, do they come down here or will this be virtual?
She didn't specify, but I'm guessing virtual. She's the same person who's coming to train us in August, the new board members to learn board stuff in August.
Well, I guess Vince, in terms of, availability, you're not gonna be here in town. And if we have a first session, who would, from the district staff would be available to kind of guide us through this, or at least set it up so that we can listen to it again.
Well, not only am I out of town that week, the 10th also out of town.
Yeah, I understand.
And so
The 10th, I am available 10.
The 10th,
the 10th is available, on the 10th, I'm out at that time.
Sure.
The,
So it's not either or, it's one of them. It's
So we
an
only
hour,
need,
one hour.
we need one day, not
Yes.
those, so those are the two,
Right.
yeah, okay.
And what, you know, you give me a little more. if I
So
can.
the OSB, they just been researching, because I don't know, but they had different options on how you could review a superintendent. Ben sent me this thing from COSA that he uses, which is like a self-review.
Yeah.
And then there are other ones where you can do that, or like incorporate different things, but I didn't really understand it all, that's why I keep training. But there are pieces that she can explain and they offer.
Just for information for everybody, the tool that the board has used in the time that I've been here is a tool that is co-created by OSBA and COSA. It's the tool that has the 8 different standards, as you guys will recall from last year, and then two goals that I had that were along with those 8 standards. And so that's the tool that the board chose to use in the first few years. And so, and it was again co-created by OSBA and COSA. So that's what we've done. And then, of course, the board can choose any model that you choose.
And that's a self-review.
It includes a self-evaluation, but the board, our pattern has been that the board has met in January. At the January meeting, the board's gone into executive session with the 8 standards. Back the first year, it was 4 standards because it was my first 6 months. And so, in January of 25, they went in with 8 standards and 2 goals. I had a chance to essentially in executive session talk through each of those standards. There's a rubric that describes what it looks like from a 1 to a 4 rating. Then the board collectively decided what that rating would be and whether or not they wanted to make comments associated with each of those standards. Did the same thing for the 2 goals. The 2 goals that I have were essentially locked into what the board wanted me to focus on: academic achievement, behavior. And so those were the basis on 2 goals. And then at the end of that meeting, they determined what my evaluation was, and then we moved forward with that. So, so that was the basic format of my hour work. And so, and again, the board has the opportunity to choose kind of whatever system you choose to use. As long as one evaluation contract says my evaluation be done by January 5th.
Sorry, what?
January 15th is contractually when the board is supposed to do the evaluation.
Okay. I guess for me, it, just very new to all this, I just want to absorb any information available to me. And so, I guess I don't know how to answer that question, which makes me feel like maybe I would want training, just to have the information to make, I don't know, how does everyone else feel about that? Is anyone else available for those times if we wanted to have an hour to do the training?
Like we need to be the 10th, because that's when there's some kind of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah, so that Tim could be available, coordinated. We're talking about basically not having discussion per se, just listening to it and.
Just training.
Yeah, just information, it's just information.
Well, I don't know if we need a motion for that, but I think with consensus, we have consensus to do that or not. I see nod.
No problem.
Yeah.
Tim, how is that for you? Because you kind of have a busy schedule.
I'm more than happy to be here.
All right, well, let's do it then.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board comments?
Welcome.
Yes,
Our
well.
new board members.
Oh, I did have one question. So the elementary school grades, for, the non-resident student, we're gonna talk about those in August. Do you know is that going to affect, so if there's kids who, live in like North Bay School District, but have transferred to Hillcrest for last year, are those possible, could that possibly come up where those students may not be able to remain at Hillcrest, or? I had someone from the public write in about that, and I was like, I don't.
We have a situation in which, because we're trying to balance students in both schools,
Mhm.
we are we are pushing kids both directions, depending on the. So,
Depending on the grade,
depending on the grade.
not necessarily where they live.
If it is, right, so if there are students at Hillcrest that we need to have go to North Bay,
And they're also in North Bay District.
the number one student that we're gonna push that direction is an interdistrict transfer from out of the district,
Okay.
okay? Because what we tell people in the elementary level is if you're an interdistrict transfer, we can't guarantee you're gonna get the school you want.
Right.
Sometimes you have to take what you get, right?
Mhm.
So interdistrict transfers, if there are enough students who are interdistrict transfer that moves over, then we don't touch the intra-district transfer, which is, it's IET, but it's the ones that are, for example, your description, that they live in the North Bay zone, but they want to come over hill.
Okay.
If we need to go into more students, okay, to balance out the class schedules, class sizes, then intra-district transfers may be like we may have to push them back to North Bay,
Gotcha.
okay? But it's not every class, it's not every level, it just depends on what the numbers are, and it's all associated with balancing classroom sizes between the two schools and taking into consideration what Ken was talking about, the contract, and what our class size looks like.
Okay.
We don't mind like differences, for example, let's say, if pick third grade and we had an average of 25 in one and 24 in the other, we're not going
Right.
to squabble about that. But if we have an average of 28 in one and 22 in another, we're probably gonna try to balance those out. Just because it's logical.
The other you're talking about might feel like they are being picked on, but there is a method to the madness, so.
Yeah.
That building principal came to me and we looked at my spreadsheet updates of when people actually submitted their form. So you would have to go from the people that submitted it the latest, and
Right.
then you would go up that list, so there was like a method of the madness. We
Yeah.
didn't just like pick to.
Oh, no, and and for her, she said that she had just heard rumors. I was like, I have no idea, but I knew that in the past. You know, it happens. So she questioned, that was something, she didn't feel, she was fine about it, she just was curious. I was like,
Correct, but we've also made the calls to the families that have been impacted. I believe those calls have already been made, so
Okay.
once, if a person is in a spot where they're hearing reversed, but they haven't been contacted,
Mhm.
then they're probably not impacted.
And I told her just to call, I said, just call.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Or, well, that leads us to information only, which leads us down to, we're going to adjourn. I think we've completed.
All right.
6:38.
Thank you.